Tonight we are here to celebrate the life of Reverend Tunis Campbell. Nobody seems to know who he is. Where preach at? He was born 199 years ago in a place called Middlebrook, New Jersey. He was a very powerful, intelligent man. He was trained by the Episcopalians to work towards helping getting our people that were enslaved in this country out of this country to the land of their choice, back to Africa. He made a decision after he finished his education in 1830 that no. This is the land that God has given us. And I will stay here to make sure that I work towards the freedom for all our people here in this land that God has given us. So he defected from the Episcopalians and joined the African Methodist Episcopal Church, where he worked to organize as many churches as he could in the North. He became a contemporary of one of your favorite people, Frederick Douglass. They worked exceptionally hard when the Civil War was to break out to get our people, our men, involved in the fight for their own freedom. And when they achieved that goal, the war that we know as the Civil War changed. They weren't in it for money. They were in it for the same reason we celebrate his life tonight, freedom. He introduced freedom in a very powerful way to refugees coming out of slavery. If you remember, there was a great destruction, military destruction, that was brought on by one General William Tecumseh Sherman. His task was to move through the South and cut off any plantation assistance that the Southern armies would receive from the South to the troops of a Confederacy fighting in the North. And Sherman did just that, with one major surprise with his victories. Us people, our people, fled from the plantation screaming one word, I mean not one, screaming one sentence: glory be to God, us free. Sherman gets to the sea and is approached by 20 black preachers. Tunis Campbell was not one of them. Led by a preacher by the name of Garrison Frazier to give us land and let us be. Special Order 15 was signed into operation, into law, and we are the only people that I know of, Gullah Geechee people, that actually received the land grant of 40 acres and a mule. Tunis, the day before the Civil War ended, was given the responsibility through the Freedmen's Bureau, operating out of Port Royal, South Carolina, to be the superintendent over our people coming out of slavery. And the lands that they had given him were lands that had been owned by the former plantation owners. Tunis was so powerful that he set up 2 major bases with no one on it but Gullah Geechee people. There was not a buckra nowhere in sight. In fact, the law was that he instituted that no buckra could set foot on St. Catherine's, nor could they set foot on Sapelo, Osabo, you name them, the ones that he was over. He had decided that freedom was with folk controlling and owning land and working that land to be productive and being left alone and protecting themselves. Self-preservation, self-determination, and freedom comes with the work that you're supposed to do as people from your own breast and from your own mind and from your own labor. That's the Gullah Geechee approach. He set up on St. Catherine's. He was the governor or president, whichever you wish to call him. Governor or president. They had a House of Representatives. They had a Senate. And most of all, they had a 272-man army with the law saying no buckra could set foot on the islands. Now, I don't know about you, but I have not heard of anyone that has been our leader that's taken that position since I've been alive. Not in this country. If you got anybody, bring them up.
Should I stand? Oh.
Yes. But Tunis was such a threat to the United States government that they formed a special regiment made up of black people to evict him from the island. He moved from the island, St. Catherine's, bought 1,250 acres at a place called Belleville, and there he began to operate with the people that followed him over in McIntosh County. And in McIntosh County, he became the Justice of the Peace. That was to be a job that they hated him for, because he took the position that if in any wise a white man would hurt a black man or do something bad to him, guess what he would do? What does the police do to our black men right now? Put them in jail. That was unheard of. This man took a decision that what happened is our dignity was too important for us to be put in a position coming out of slavery to have to bow down, tip around, play games, and not have manhood coming from our breast. As the Justice of the Peace, he arrested a number of white folk. It became a real problem. The real problem it got to be was that people who were now coming back to their so-called land, because Lincoln was dead. He was assassinated by a boy by the name of Andrew Johnson. I know y'all gonna say it was
John Wilkes Booth.
That's what y'all gonna say. But John Wilkes Booth could not become president of the United States after assassination. Andrew Johnson could, and Andrew Johnson was from Tennessee, East Tennessee. He hated black folk. And what he did, at the moment he got the helm and Lincoln was laying in the grave, he reversed the order, giving us these lands. But by that time, being enterprising people, we was already growing tobacco. And we were already growing rice, indigo, peas and beans, watermelons, you name it. we had already conquered and saw and was not going to be moved.
That's right.
And he, as a leader, worked to make sure that Reconstruction, even though it became the splendid failure, it never happened.
Right.
It was supposed to happen, but what they did was they made a deal, pulled the federal troops out, left us to be here doing what we're doing now. They put him in prison. They beat him. They put him in prison. He was the senator from the 2nd District. And trust me, they brutalized Tunis Campbell. For us not to have that in our history books, for us not to have that as a common knowledge among Gullah Geechee people, especially in light of the fact that in the same year that Tunis got to operating on St. Catherine's and other islands, there was a group of people forming an organization called the Zion Missionary Baptist Association. Am I right? They began to march to Zion for the purpose of being connected together so that they could control the destiny of their lives as Gullah Geechees from the land. Tunis Campbell will always be with us. If we in fact acknowledge 199 years ago, he passed through here and he left the spirit of freedom, self-determination, self-preservation, sacredness of the land, sacredness of the sea. He left all of that with we. And he put us in a position to where what we have done is we have backed away from the position that he put us in to be connected with one another. That's why the Gullah Geechee Nation is at doing its serious work based on the kind of work that Tunis Campbell did. That's why we're so grateful our Queen came tonight. That's why we're so grateful that you came tonight. We want to make this an annual birthday celebration. If we can celebrate the life of Martin Luther King Jr. That they gave us, we need to have a hero that we lift up that they don't like. Does that make sense to you? Huh? Now we have been given all kind of heroes. Superman, Batman, Robin, Tarzan, fictional persons that don't laugh. Who else, sir? Flash, Gordon, all of those folks. Well, what that does is it leaves us without the roots of our ancestors being our real hero. Tonight we made a decision that we are going to, well, we made a decision at our first celebration. But tonight we have asked you to come in here to make this a permanent affair based on the fact that we cannot do it unless we organize around the principles in which Reverend Campbell left to the Gullah Geechee Nation. Now, the nation claims to save the freedmen from the greed and wrath of those who tore the country's life away. Let us have peace. And if the gory path of Southern Empire o'er the bondsman lay, beneath them lies an early tomb. Lo, out of the thought and sight, 'tis but the coming doom of those whom God made black instead of white. Peace is our watchword now, at every cost or price. Before it, honor, truth, and country bow. The black must turn to white or die, the last device. That's a tribute. Now we have an understanding of that tribute given by our Queen.
Now this was written by Dr. Elisa Rizzo, who has done studies and traveled with me, reconnecting the Gullah Geechee diaspora and looking at transnational identity amongst Gullah Geechee. And her commentary on one read of that poem was The Situation. I'm reading this poem within a larger view of the contributions made by the Gullah Geechee people to the United States of America. and America as a continent. The poem evokes the times of the Civil War and the fight for freedom in the South. It renders tribute to Tunis Campbell's lifelong efforts and success in restoring the dignity of the Gullah Geechee within the then new nation of the United States of America. The situation highlights that the Gullah Geechee earned their place as owners of their land by exercising the right of citizenship through planning, education, and military action. And this was in thanks to the vision of Tunis Campbell. Parallel to this fight of the Gullah Geechee were the fights of the Oklahoma freedmen, or in the Indian Territory, and further south in Nacimiento in Mexico. Tunis Campbell joins other great leaders who defended the great law of the land through the defense of freedom and through the prevailing of citizen activity of the Gullah Geechee and all peoples of African descent in the USA and the Americas. And she gives thanks for having been able to read this poem. And I must say, her commentary on this poem is critical to this moment in time.
Absolutely.
Because this year is the International Year of People of African Descent. And so how could we then go through this entire year without celebrating those who stood firmly for the freedom of people of African descent? And so I always believe in divine order, and divine time. And so shall we say, may God add a blessing to the reading and the hearing of this word this evening.
I have a mighty serious suspicion that the Spirit of the Lord God is upon us and has not only anointed us to do our work. And I'm excited because I believe that we have started on a trip that will cause us to lift up our heroes and cause some of our young men and women to understand that they have heroes beyond that which they have been given in certain places, and Tunis Campbell is certainly one of them.
Glory.